Georgetown, a small town located in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. One white chapel, one graveyard site. From Old Order Mennonites to backyard farmers, Georgetown is mostly quiet, although, when the sun sets, a sense of lore washes over the acres of land and Amish farms. Even though it is a quiet town, the locals will always speak of a certain road, a certain location, and a puzzling house. The Pink House. An elderly couple lived in this house since the 1900s, and they were known as the Quiet Owners. They built the house in the only wooded area of Georgetown, mainly for privacy. The woman who lived in the Pink House was given the nickname Horsey, as she refused to keep up with the times and buy a car. Horsey would ride her horse into Little Georgetown every day to run her errands. She was a peculiar woman, but friendly enough to anyone who passed her on her horse. Horsey's husband was a stern man. He worked as a laborer in town, and the couple was known for their privacy, and they were known as the owners of the Pink House. On a Monday morning, as normal as any other in the small town, Horsey's husband didn't show up to work. There was some chatter in the Georgetown square when the locals realized Horsey did not ride in on her horse that day either. The same occurrence followed for the next 3 days. Finally, someone from Horsey's husband's place of work gave the Georgetown sheriff a call and asked to do a welfare check on the Pink House. The sheriff drove down the back roads, seeing Pink siding off in the distance. A wave of anxiety came across his chest as he realized that he had never actually been to this place of residence. The Pink House did not have a driveway, so the sheriff parked about 2 acres away in the field and began his walk towards the wooded area. Everything was quiet. The sheriff looked up into the trees. It seemed like the birds were not even welcome. He approached the edge of the woods and could see the tiny pink house just a ways up. He continued his steps and crossed a small bridge with a creek running underneath. The sheriff noticed that the property seemed to have not been taken care of for some time. Trash filled the creek, and the barn on the property was leaning sideways. There was no sign of any farm animals anywhere. The sheriff started to not feel welcome. What was a sunny day all of a sudden seemed dark, but he pushed through the thick brush anyway. As the sheriff looked up towards the house, he finally felt a sense of relief. There was Horsey's husband on the front porch rocking chair. The sheriff sighed in between catching his breath from the long hike. The sheriff called out as he approached the elderly man, "Good morning to you, sir." As he continued towards the house, he called out again, "A few people from town were worried about you two and wanted me to come see how things were going. Is everything okay?" At that moment, the sheriff had gotten close enough to see the man's face. Even though the man's eyes were open, maggots were crawling out of his mouth, his eyes swollen red and his skin purple and cold. The sheriff fell backwards off the porch. As he laid stunned, looking up, Horsey opened the door and greeted the sheriff with an eerie smile. Her eyes looked glazed over. As she gave him a stare, she said, "Thank you for coming to check in on us, but we are just fine. My husband is just relaxing on the front porch. I'm putting together some herbals to give him some life again." She grinned, looked at her husband, and kissed him on the forehead. The sheriff took off running, trying to process what he had just witnessed. He felt as though Horsey was chasing him, breathing down his neck. The sheriff got back to his car, vomiting, shaking, and pale as a ghost. It was a sight he would never forget, a story he would never understand, and a pink house, now haunted and forever daunting. Even though Horsey and her husband are long gone, legend goes that if you wait till night and sneak across the fields, through the woods, the brush, and over the creek, you can still see the old pink house rotten by time, the porch still there, with a single empty chair, waiting for anyone brave enough to sit in it. But if you do, Horsey's ghost might emerge from the house with some of her special herbal tea for you, or maybe a kiss for your forehead. But like her husband, she won't let you leave.